What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Josh Button Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Professor William Dorman, BJJ Fanatics, traveling instructionals. I've caught a ton myself. I love them. Lots of techniques in there for you guys to work on. But we're going to get into a lot of other stuff today because you have quite the background. Navy diver, team leader, founder of Blue Ring Solutions, which sounds like it's right up my alley, and most of our Jiu-Jitsu friends and family. And then you're an ambassador for Defy Foundation as well. Let's get into all of it, but give me that story about how you and Steve Hordinski linked up in Hawaii and got you into jiu-jitsu in the first place.
Yeah, so thanks again, Josh, for having me on. It's a privilege to be here. I enjoy watching your content and get a lot out of it, so thank you. Yeah, my buddy Steve Hordinski from Hawaii years ago, about 2006, drove me over to a jiu-jitsu class, and I grew up wrestling and things, and I thought, I'll give this thing a look. And Steve was pretty tough. He had quite the reputation back then. He was a brown belt under Helson at the time. And I was looking to get into MMA, and I guess maybe I should look at this jiu-jitsu stuff. So I go there and show up at this academy. Jason Izagiri was a professor out there, one of Hoyler's affiliates back in the day at Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Kailua. And I went in this place in this Akahi shopping center, and it was a bunch of people in pajamas wrestling, and I'm thinking, what did I get myself into here? A bunch of pajama wrestling. I don't know about this. And I proceeded to take this class, and I got destroyed by these 120-pound women. One of them was Daneen, who has a school out in Hawaii now, in Kahala Jiu-Jitsu, I think, and has done a lot of cool things with the Jiu-Jitsu community, board games and things like that. But great woman, and she's probably in her, I don't know, maybe 60s now, but she's still getting after it, looks great, and she's grinding away and got a great kids program out there in Hawaii. She proceeded to hand me my ass, and as well as everybody else in there, but I had the wrestling spirit, and I was like, what is this magic? I got to get into this thing. And, I was thinking, I'm an athlete. I'm so much stronger. What is up with this jiu-jitsu stuff? And then I was just hooked on it. Some people walk in a jiu-jitsu gym and they get beat up by some skinny little person that you think wouldn't traditionally do that in a normal situation in life. And then you get your eyes open, you leave the gym and never come back, right? And I went the opposite way and just got all in on it and just started to consume jiu-jitsu full time. So I was training pretty often, and it became what I need in life, really, to give me happiness. So I'm able to do that now with many different ways. And as you said, with a BJJ Fanatics, I just filmed an instructional not too long ago. It just came out like last week. And then I've got a bunch of free video content on BJJ Globetrotters YouTube as well. So sharing jiu-jitsu around the world is my passion. And I'm fortunate enough to have a great instructor with Gustavo, and great team for competing, and great team with the Globetrotters and everybody else I come across in life. And it's very valuable for my growth in jiu-jitsu and as a person as well.
So you got your black belt from Gustavo Machado. Is he in South Florida there in Sarasota area?
He has an affiliate gym here in Gustavo Machado, BJJ SRQ. And actually, he comes in tonight and teaches a seminar here tomorrow. But Gustavo's main academy is in Virginia Beach, where I was stationed for many, many years. So I trained with Gustavo back there in Virginia Beach, and started in Hawaii, obviously under Jason Izagiri, and got my blue belt through him, and then went to Gustavo in maybe 2007 and kind of stuck with Gustavo since then. Small little short stint away at Lynx Academy because the command I was working with had a free, tuition, and I was gone all the time. So it was a stupid move that I made on my part, but I'm happy to be back in Gustavo's world, and it's a great organization that I'm a part of.
Got it. Now, have you considered doing your own thing yet? Have you started thinking about your own academy, or do you prefer to travel and do Globetrotters and stick to the other stuff?
I do, I think at some point want to probably look at, running an academy, but I do enjoy the freedom and the freedom of movement, really, to go anywhere, anytime I want. And that's kind of the life passion I've followed the last 4 years since kind of retiring from the military. I like to think about it as like floating down the river, and all the things kind of fall into place as they do, which allows me, opportunities present themselves. I say, yep, that sounds good. And then I go do that. I don't have to worry about I got to find someone to run the academy. And then I got all the stuff that goes with that. And so I'd like to be able to pop in, share my jiu-jitsu, help coach some classes here and there, and then go and travel the world for a little bit, which is really what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's a whole different experience. So how much have you competed? I saw that you have, and I didn't dig too deep into your history and your competition background to find it out. I figured I'd just ask you directly.
Yeah, so I started off in Hawaii when I first got started in the jiu-jitsu, and as a white belt, I was just winning all the tournaments out there. And Helson at the time was like, oh, he's sandbagging, and there's a lot of tournaments around Hawaii in the islands. There's a very scrappy culture out there. So there's tournaments every weekend. And I loved it. I was like, just go wrestle people, take them down, get points, win matches. So that's kind of how I did jiu-jitsu initially. And then through the years, I continued to compete. I was competing every weekend for a while as I continued to go through the belts at small tournaments and, IBJJF here and there. I remember the first IBJJF I went to as a blue belt. I was thinking I was unstoppable. Just got my blue belt in like 6 months from Jason because, Helson was bitching all the time for me winning these tournaments. Uh, went to the pans and there was 126 people in my bracket and they're all like savages, and I'm like, whoa, I guess there's more to this here jiu-jitsu stuff. I think I should take another look at how I'm doing things. And then I just continue to evolve. And I still like to compete. I do maybe 3 to 4 different competitions a year and then some other super fights here and there if I get a chance or just kind of whatever life throws at me. But I always like to keep the big competition type events like the Worlds, No-Gi Masters and, the Gi Worlds and Pans. I like to do those every year. So it just gives me some kind of event to prepare for and train for and kind of stay within the zone of healthy and doing the right thing. And, I like a challenge as well. So it constantly gives me challenges to live up to.
So do you prepare for each one of those events with an official camp or do you stay in shape year round for it?
I've got this motto, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And this idea is like my buddy in Ireland, I just came back from Dublin a couple days ago. And it's like, he jokes at me because I'm always very like ready everywhere. Like I go and wake up in the morning, bed's made, everything's organized. Here's my clothes for later tonight, all this stuff, right? So we stay in these hostels together and everything's like in order. And I'm always like thinking about the next step of everything in life, kind of prepared. So yeah, if you don't have to get ready, if you stay ready, that's kind of right.
Do you attribute that to your military background? Is this something that you've always been?
Yeah, I think so. And I think as military kind of grinds you down and gives you this kind of brainwashed mentality of like, oh, just keep grinding through, push through the pain, and this is maybe really good in a lot of ways, but also maybe not so good because you don't actually take care of yourself. You're just working for the man constantly, like promoting this thing that maybe you're not even on board with. And then, you get kind of brainwashed in this mentality. But I do believe that people need suffering and, through suffering creates a lot of growth in life. So I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of suffering and growth in life. And I try to learn from all these things, but yeah, grinding through and then just, it doesn't matter the condition that I'm in. If I compete constantly, I'm constantly broken or injured or something's not feeling right. Need a hip replacement and my discs in my neck are off and can't feel my fingers and there's nerve damage and can't turn my head and my knees are dangling. I just send it anyway because I have jujitsu and most of the time, like you can stay fairly safe, even if you're completely out of shape. And especially in the Masters division, I've got 5 minutes. I can do anything for 5 minutes. Like I'll die and push myself to die and it's no problem. It's not that I want to do that, but as I get better jiu-jitsu and through the years, I think I go more into like a flow state. So now my jiu-jitsu is actually not just the practice of the jiu-jitsu, but so many other things that are combined with it just for like mobility and yoga and mindfulness and then connection and community. So it's all wrapped together somehow now.
Yeah. I actually heard you saying something that was completely relevant, and we'll get into the recovery aspects as well for sure. But you were talking about avoiding leg lock situations with these guys. You could tell they were just going to be scrambling for your ankles or legs or this and that. And your approach to entering guards and your approach to distance management and then being in control and the way you attack the hips, I thought about it. It's really beneficial that anybody in our age range kind of learns this and starts to apply it. So is that how you came to this game? Like through self-preservation and maturity, or was this always part of your smash pass game?
That's a great question. So, initially I grew up as a wrestler, in Michigan and since I was pretty young and kind of enjoyed that, the grappling aspect of it throughout life and then started watching UFC and stuff. So initially I had a top pressure game automatically. I just take people down, stay on top because that's all I knew. Right. And then as I started to, encounter people with better jiu-jitsu, I thought, I should figure out this whole bottom position. So then I started, working from the bottom and a lot of Gustavo's old DVDs, we used to watch in Afghanistan and my buddy and I, Greg Walker, would just drill a bunch of these sequences over and over. And then, as we finish work stuff, we go out and, teach in other camps and whatnot. So it was really evolving our ground game at that point. And then, leg lock stuff started coming around, and Gustavo had always just said, "Oh, if we just keep your shoelaces to the ground and you're pretty safe." And I never really made sense at that point. But the old school jiu-jitsu was more like pressure-based self-defense kind of style of jiu-jitsu. And I feel like they dominated the space and they controlled adding strikes as well as applicable. And I think that's just a better way to control and make things much safer in any kind of situation. Doesn't mean, in sport jiu-jitsu, yeah, certainly, but in self-defense as well, because you don't overdo things, and you can control situations and disengage from a top position much easier than being wrapped in the bottom or in a mount or on the back, in these situations. So I always like the top pressure control the hips idea. And then as I go back now, I'm back on the bottom playing around, but now I've developed things that went from wrestling style into the top pressure game, but from a scrambly, like unorthodox situations that is really fun right now. And it feels like I've got the cheat code of jiu-jitsu, because I go right back into the top, hip control over and under, dominate that space. And then, it's very difficult to run away when you're attached to them like a koala bear or a sloth climbing a tree. So that's mostly because, yeah, my knees and feet are completely torn apart, and if you touch them, they kind of explode. And Europe was a lot of people were playing the leg lock game when I first started traveling Europe with the Globetrotters. So I thought, oh, I should look at that. And then I started to kind of train a little bit and drill them, and people would touch my feet, and I couldn't walk for a week just by drilling stuff, and I'd be like, I'm not doing that anymore. So then I just didn't do it, and no one ever touches my feet. They want to, they want to get to my feet, but it's very, very rare. And if they do, it's likely because I'm just doing something stupid that I shouldn't have been doing anyway. So if I really want to, you won't ever get them. It's very difficult.
Yeah,
So it keeps me safe.
I picked up a few details from that instructional that I was referencing, because I am a bottom half guard player predominantly the last couple of years, and I'm starting to really transition and work more top game. But another thing that you did that I hadn't really thought about was applying gi techniques in no gi, and that lasso style specific sweep is what I'm referring to at the moment. And because I played with it for the last 2 months, and I'm blown away at how well it works in no gi. You get the blade of the hand, or you get that leg in the right position, and they're over, and you're back on top. So,
Exactly.
yeah, did you learn that from the gi and specifically think about it? Like, I'm going to go and apply this in no gi?
I did learn it initially. That was one of Gustavo's, wizard moves as well. Kind of a lot of things that I have are really good and tricky is from old school, like jujitsu, like Gustavo has. And so initially had this old quarter guard, half guard kind of series. And, he's a black belt under Gordo, who's the, essentially the creator of the half guard, or made it offensive, right? So, a lot of the half guard situations end up in able to get either sweeps, you get submissions, or you just stand up and get back on top. And you can all the time. There's always wrestle ups, or you're already in the inside space, able to control that. And it always just made sense to me. That half guard position, both top and bottom, and getting back to the top is really what I focus on now a bit more. So from the bottom to the top, to the top to the bottom, you got them or something.
So you have other instructionals coming up that you're planning?
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch actually. As I continue to develop my jiu-jitsu through the Globetrotter camps and other places where I teach and train with people around the world, I'm constantly getting new feedback and new ideas, and then new ways to look at all of jiu-jitsu really in a different light. And having so many different instructors throughout the Globetrotter camps, we get, I probably watch 4 or 5 classes a day. A lot of times I don't drill, I just watch them and then get things on the outside and then implement them in real life in live roles against people that don't want me to do that. And I think that's very beneficial. Live rolling is the most growth that you'll ever get in jiu-jitsu. And if you get someone that actually can kind of move with you with the philosophy of like moving through principles and ideas and situations, then you can really evolve your game, because then you start to see those patterns, and neuroplasticity like starts to, make more sense to your body, and the movement connects, and the breathing, and then yeah, it's jiu-jitsu.
Meaning like you have a training partner who's willing to move, or as opposed to just trying to shut everything down or defend themselves, or meaning like you want to impose your will against people that, you're training with regardless?
No, I think, sometimes, sure, I went a long time more in imposing my will, and that was very beneficial from the development of my jiu-jitsu. And now I kind of work more on the other side of it doesn't matter where I go or what happens, and I just move through and flow through situations. People may not feel like it's that when they roll with me, because I still move through the situations into dominant positions and finish a lot because the pathways are building constantly. But, catch and release movement and flow style against everyone. It doesn't matter who they are, a high level black belt or a brand new person. I feel like I can kind of uh, get a lot out of every interaction that I have with everybody. It doesn't matter how crazy they are or how good they are or how bad they are, and none of it matters. And there's always some kind of exchange that happens and information that I get or share, and that makes me pretty happy in life.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things that I find is almost universal when you're talking to high-level guys that have already proven what they have to prove in the game. They're willing to play a lot more in positions that most people avoid. For the most part, most jiu-jitsu practitioners are purple belt and under. I mean, as far as, black belts, you're not as rare as you once were, but it's still the odds are on the other side of the equation. So most of the people on the mats are actually avoiding bad situations more than anything else. Have you found that you actually learned just as much engaging those bad positions as you did when you were just dominating people?
Yeah, I think that's actually where the most growth occurs is those bad positions. Like I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, is the suffering part. Everybody needs more suffering in order to progress in their life, I feel, and the bad situations, as you figure out how to work yourself out of them, you're problem solving and you're creating new opportunities, and you get comfortable being in uncomfortable situations, and all these things that are really, really good in life that you hear everybody talk about. It's putting words to it is almost very difficult, but they're like, well, that doesn't make sense. You're getting, a big sweaty, hairy guy just all over your face. What, breast milk and smothering you or whatever. How is that good for you? And somehow it's very, very good for you. And I like that the fact that, science is backing these ideas now, and they're actually doing studies on these things, and there's actual data. And I like that approach to both, functional medicine stuff, and everything in life. The science really backs these things. And if you can go, yep, look, this says it. Here's this little piece of paper in this study and peer reviewed, whatever. So you can actually get something tangible, not just a bunch of people running their mouths and giving you false information and feeding it to you with a fire hose every day.
Yeah, that's one of the good parts about jujitsu is that when you're on the mats, you encounter these individuals like yourself who have been on the mats for 20 years or whatever and have been through it all. And then you have no choice but to take their word for it because they're still here. They're still on the mats. They're still doing what you want to, do at some point in time. So resiliency, you believe in it so much, you've actually branched out and started working to instill that into other people and to promote that in other ways. How did you come up with Blue Ring Solutions?
So Blue Ring Solutions, that's a great question. Is many years ago, I think maybe 2016 or so, I had a friend, Greg Walker. He was getting out of the military, and we were looking at potentially starting the LLC so we could get some contracting jobs through the government teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and things, which Gustavo does a really great job as well. And I was fortunate enough to have him at work a lot. So Gustavo would be coming into work and training, and then I go out in town and train. And it was like private lessons all the time from so many great people. But Greg and I, we're looking at doing that. I was still active duty at the time, and we were going to partner up and make this Blue Ring Solutions. And the Blue Ring, obviously, octopus is a beautiful little deadly creature. So like the size of your hand, but it has enough venom in it to take down like 20 people. So the idea of, smaller opponents being able to take down and conquer bigger opponents. And then, it's a beautiful little creature in the sea, and I'm a diver, and I like these things. And then also the art of eight, Muay Thai, it's your whole body. Octopus has 8 limbs and little tentacles and whatnot. This was the idea around the blue ring octopus and Blue Ring Solutions as the earth as a whole, right? And I'm kind of a little bit hippie in energy fields and these things. I believe a lot in the, you know, karma and, the secret of life essentially is the law of attraction, law of abundance and these types of things. So I'm big into like energy work and, plant medicine stuff. And I just really believe that it's all connected. You might feel separate and we draw these lines in the world, but really we're all in this thing together and everyone's suffering from exactly the same thing everywhere in the world. We may take it for granted sometimes and think that it's different, but it's not. Everyone has the same kind of issues and some more than others, obviously. But yeah, one people, one planet, all connected. And I'd like to share that through my jiu-jitsu. So now that's my company. My buddy Greg Walker is no longer involved and did his own thing in Chesapeake, Virginia. He's doing great. And we never really did anything with it back then anyway. So I retired and then restarted the LLC down here in Florida and, use it to make some money here and there, teaching seminars and privates at the house and whatnot. And yeah, life is good with jujitsu. And I don't really worry too much about making a bunch of money through jiu-jitsu. I just enjoy the journey and connection, authentic connection with real people and growing together.
How does gardening come into play?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I grew up in northern Michigan, Traverse City area. Um, my mother always did this big garden at this restaurant. She was a chef at the Brookside Inn in like Beulah, Michigan. Had this big giant garden and roses, and then we have a big giant garden at some of the places where I used to live, which were many houses throughout the years. But always there was some kind of gardening going on, and I moved down to Florida after I got out of the military, and I was living in a van initially when I moved down here, actually, and teaching at my buddy's jiu-jitsu gym, and then skydiving in the morning, doing tandems, and working at a dive shop, just hustling, making money because I didn't know how long it'd take to get my retirement and things. And then, I bought this house and then started traveling the world pretty much 300 days a year again. So I had like, some friends that would stay at the house, or I'd let other people, come visit for a while I was gone. And then I started clearing out trees from these downed hurricanes, and I started cutting up all this stuff and moved my fence out. And I was like, it's garden time, it's perfect weather down here all year long. And I saw something on YouTube that really fired me up and building some raised beds and whatnot. And then the therapeutic benefit of the gardening. It's not even about all the food that I get to eat, which is great, but it's really the therapy of being outside in the sunshine with feet in the dirt, grounding, eating fresh things that I grew, watching them grow, things being dependent on me. And then, this idea is like, we need to do this for everybody. It can be plants, and I love the plants in the house, plants in the garden, whatever food that you're going to eat. And I would go as far as to probably even start doing some chickens or some quails at one of these points. My buddy does quails right now and makes a bunch of pickled quail eggs, which is really cool too. So I like this living with the land idea, a little bit of living with the nature and all the chaos in life. So I travel the world and get a bunch of street concrete in life and never touch the dirt for a while. And then I make it a point to get back in the ground, especially, when traveling across the world. I think that that's probably the easiest way to get yourself back on schedule is stand in the dirt for, 10 minutes, and your body goes, oh, okay, now we're over here in the world. I guess we need to recalibrate. So I think there's a lot to it. And energy is, pretty abundant in the world, and I've got a lot of it. I think I kind of share it with plants and things. So I think that the toxicities that the plants have, they don't bother me because I'm like immune to it. Maybe I don't know.
All right. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm an avid gardener myself. I actually manage a small garden right up the street from my place. And when I started jujitsu, I was out in California with a big garden, and I was also growing cannabis at the time. For
Oh,
me,
that's cool, man.
yeah, for me, it was completely abundantly clear what you're saying is absolutely factual. I came into grounding that way. I stayed out in the sun more. I got as healthy as I've ever been as an adult. I felt that plants were communicating with us just as much as people sometimes. And yeah, that stop killing the plants thing, it's a play on words, but it was also the carryover from me leaving veganism to nutritionally serve myself a little bit better. But that doesn't mean that I abandoned plants. I think in one aspect, I was more connected to them than ever before. And I felt like there was communication there, and they were open to frequencies when I was playing them certain frequencies. And I was just completely dialed with it and thought, we all need to understand this. They are no different from the animals in a lot of ways. So it is a play on words. And when you had said that in our email earlier, I was like, I wonder if he knows.
That's pretty awesome. Actually, I feel that exact same thing. I get out in the garden and I'm out there watering the plants. I don't have them on a timer. I like to get out there and look at them and check them out and get rid of things that I need to, and the whole thing. And I'm out there with a didgeridoo in the morning,
Yeah.
grounding, blowing the didgeridoo to my plants, and people are like, what is wrong with this guy?
So
I've got a great spot here though. So it's, really good neighbors. So no one really gives me too much drama.
awesome. I'm in South Florida as well. And yeah, like the connection to it, if you don't understand it, you should really get out there, go volunteer in somebody else's garden and just give it a chance. Go feel it. I did notice, like, when I would play, instruments or play certain frequencies for the plants, they would perk up. They would really stand up tall and alert. And when you water them and you take care of them and you can almost talk to them and do all those things, it's kind of reciprocated in a weird way if you're paying attention. So I thought it was all.
Yeah, I definitely pay attention, and I feel that connection and the frequency as well. And I'm looking at doing some sound therapy with bees. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
Bee house, like
Yeah.
meditation things. So I've got this. I'd love to integrate the bees into the backyard as well. I've got a bunch of natural bees out there right now that love the stuff that's growing, but I want to put a few hives out there underneath the bench of a sauna. That they have these Valencia beehives or whatever, but I want to turn it into a sauna as well. So I could flip some seats down, and then I have the bees inside, and they can be isolated from the sauna, and then fire up the stove or whatever and turn on your IR lights or whatever you're into, and then have a cold tub next to it, and then be able to work the bees as well. And then you have a little hut where you can have your friends stay with some Japanese mattresses, and they come visit for some extra space. So it's like a three-way little building. It's good for the bees, good for the garden. I got a bunch of milkweeds and different types of flowers that are good for the bees and butterflies out in the
Yeah.
yard. So I just scatter things everywhere in Florida. All of it grows, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, they pollinate everything. Everything turns into an abundant, amazing, beautiful like place, and you can't help but like absorb energy that way for sure.
Yeah, 100% symbiotic relationship, like
Yeah.
us and plants in the world. Yeah.
How long have you been cold plunging?
Oh, I guess like we had a great human performance center at work for many years. I was in Virginia Beach from like 2007 to 2022 ish. We had a whole magical human performance center with like better than pro sport athlete places. So we always had like a hot tub and a cold tub. We had float tanks and salt pods and mind mapping things and little gadgets that you put on your brain to do stuff and heart rate variability training and all these other great modalities that are really good for everybody because they want you to be able to perform optimally constantly. And so I got exposed to it, around probably whenever I went to 2007-ish, I think, initially. But I, jumped in Lake Michigan as a kid, and I was always kind of into the water stuff. I'm like a diver by, trade in the Navy, and always loved the water. So, I mean, it made sense, the cold plunging. And I had a freezer at my house that I was using for quite a while, but it broke after about 10 years of use. I had one of those big ones, like you fit a couple people in there. So I turned that into a cold plunge. But I'm going to build a different one here coming up pretty soon. And it's just work in progress as always.
That's exactly what I have as a freezer. I mean, just
Yeah,
most cost effective way for sure.
works great. I mean, we brought them all over the world. Afghanistan, we had freezers that we fill up with water and build little wood stairs and, have a little shower out. So wash your feet and stuff off, get in the little freezer. And then, we had someone checking it constantly. So it was like a spa, brought spa kits and chemical testing, whatever. And then when it gets dirty, you rinse it out and put new water in it, good to go.
That's
But
right. You
it was,
are completely human. You are aligned with the earth, and you actually have all of these modalities that have been with you for a long time. So, how much do you attribute all of this stuff to you still being on the mats and your recovery?
I think probably the most important thing with the recovery, there's so many different modalities and keeping up with everything that you kind of need to do every day is very difficult. So now I've really tried to focus on making my jiu-jitsu more for both recovery and for the development of my jiu-jitsu. So I use it as like the movement idea. And I love the Budokan idea, this mobility training that Steve actually mentioned in his podcast as well. The guy Cameron Shane is quite impressive, the movement. And Steve does this at his academy in Colorado. And I went out and did a seminar last year sometime and noticed that his white belts were, brand new people in jiu-jitsu were really moving well. And most of the time that's, my most common reaction to people, what can I do to improve my jiu-jitsu is movement, period. That's it. So they implemented this immediately into their game of jiu-jitsu, and it just makes you have to constantly adapt and look for different things. So you're constantly in that, observe orient phase of the OODA loop, and they're just moving, and that's creating opportunity. And at some point they'll learn submissions to get from that place to some kind of submissions. And until then, they're just building these neural pathways and things and moving and just flowing much, much better. So I think the mobility training and yoga type stuff really, really benefited my jiu-jitsu and my recovery as far as like the mindfulness and the stress reduction and the breathing things and, the movement. And a couple of brothers, a whole family actually in Virginia Beach, the Yaks brothers or Yaks family have a yoga studio, Hot House Yoga. And they were sponsoring Gustavo's guys, purple belt and above for many, many years. So I was going to yoga since about 2007. And initially, when I started, it was just women going into the classes and me, a couple other guys maybe. And then as the years went by, and I started to go more and more, I see like 90% of the class were men that I worked with. Like it was crazy how many, you know, 25-year-old badass dudes that you would never expect to be in yoga were in yoga like 3 5 times a week or more, you know? So I think that there's a lot to that because it does so many things and hits so many modalities and then gets you more connected and the energy and the flow and the movement and like all of those things. So I think that yoga is probably the most beneficial thing, and as well as the cold plunges and all the other plant medicine things, and you know it all builds up. I think I saw a guy talking about the podcast with you a while back about building that platform, right? And all those little things kind of goes on that platform to be able to get at this top performance level.
Yeah, it's funny when I was in New York, and as soon as winter would hit every year, I was right back into the hot yoga studio. For I wanted to move better and have that like flexibility, and it took focus, but because I needed the sweat, I wanted the heat, I wanted to get out of the cold and go do it, and I was really surprised how much that served me later on when it came to jujitsu and other things. It's undervalued in my opinion for sure.
Yeah, I was really impressed when I first started at the amount of cardio that gave me.
Mhm.
Like I love the hot vinyasa flow, but I also now love all yoga. It doesn't have to be hot anymore. Because I got more benefit. I think the mindfulness and presence kind of thing that shut off the world and it doesn't matter anymore, and then move through these things. Uh, that was probably the best part of it. But yeah, the sweating part was really important for me initially when I started as well. But I mean, the cardio that I would get and the ease of movement because I don't know, your body's just used to flowing and moving with the breathing, right? And a lot of times in jiu-jitsu, we get clenched up and we like, and then next thing you know, you're huffing and puffing and you can't breathe. Meanwhile, I'm just like, closed mouth, breathing through my nose, flowing through these great situations against people that are trying to murder me. People are like, well, how do you do that? Yoga, I think, helped a lot with that, actually.
Yeah, it's funny. You see it all the time, like the black belts, the guys that have been on the mats for a while. You look around the room and you see a nice, calm, composed face and breathing through their nose and out their nose. And the guy that they're rolling with is gasping for
Yeah.
air and struggling and doesn't understand what's going on.
Yeah. That's all part of it. Suffering.
Did you ever do any breath work off the mats, off of the yoga mats specifically that you were training for one reason or another?
Yeah. So I actually did, you know, a lot of breath work when I was going to do high mountain stuff like Aconcagua and The Oxygen Advantage. Have you read this book
But
or
yeah,
heard of this book?
but yeah.
Yeah, it's a great book. So I did a bunch of those kind of breathing exercises, and now I implement them without really knowing throughout life, prior to tournaments or prior to doing a presentation, or even today before speaking with you, or whatever the case. I'm always doing these breathing exercises, box breathing or do HRV training, which I'm actually part of this boot campaign right now with Warrior Wellness Solutions and things, and they're sponsoring me. I just had a pre-nubu scan of my whole body, and then I'm doing this heart rate variability coaching with this lady as well, Sandy. So it's very nice because I was exposed to that through work many years ago about trying to reset the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system for the rest and digest idea, right? And how do you do that when you stay on this turned on point through all of life? And it's very difficult to turn it off ever. We do these shots in the neck, like a stellate ganglion block that's supposed to reset your sympathetic nervous system, and it works for a little bit. But I think that the breath work is probably the most important part of like really resetting that system and getting it to react when you need it by being on full time and just causing constant stress in your life. So I really I attribute all the breathing that I've done before to my success with this training right now with the HRV training because my scores are quite good for starting this thing, especially in the you know different things that I've dealt with in life and whatnot. So I'm pretty happy, and I think a lot of it is from the oxygen advantage training and breath work through yoga and movement things. So reducing the stress through breathing things and resetting that sympathetic nervous system is important.
Yeah, I've been a broken record on my channels for a long time. Just breath work, breath work, breath work. I try to turn people on to it all the time. And for a large part of the population, they'll never really understand it until they need it for something. And then they get introduced to it the right way or a way that they're open to. But yeah, just the standard physiological sigh is great. Did you do apnea training when you were diving for sure?
No, I don't think so. But maybe I kind of forget half the things that we
Yeah,
did in life
that's
sometimes.
Yeah, that's actually how I got introduced to it was some divers that were at a pool out in California, and they were, like, doing these apnea these holds, and I was kinda like, "What's going on here?" And then just one thing led to another. I was at an event for a big surfer there, and he did the Wim Hof breathing before their session.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he led me in it, and I was like, wait, this is different than what I thought breathwork was. I didn't know that this is what it is. This is crazy, and really got turned on
Uh-huh.
to it.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot of great breathwork coaches and things out there now. One of my friends, Mike Hernandez, is in somewhere in Tampa area. Actually, he does some breathwork stuff as well. Did a retreat a while back with him in Oklahoma. My buddy's place, the Rising Ridge. It's a good spot.
Yeah,
They focus on some breathwork.
what else were you doing at Rising Ridge? I read that somewhere.
So yeah, my friend's got a retreat that he does for everyone. Really, it's not just veterans, but he does a veterans one each year. And I went to maybe a veterans one the first year, and then everyone retreat the next year. But yeah, I'd like to go maybe every year. And they do plant medicine stuff. It's his wife's big into Reiki, so we do some Reiki things. And there's a couple weeks prior, we're doing some phone calls and working through as a cohort, maybe 20 people at a time, and you know preparing mentally, physically, and getting right on your nutrition and all the other things, and then going and sitting with different sacraments in Oklahoma over a weekend and working through, cold plunge stuff and different movement therapies and, grounding with the earth and all the things that people really need to be healthy in life. Drink enough water, get some sunshine, stand in the dirt, eat the right foods that are good for your body. Don't eat, snack, junk food all day, all the basic things in life. Yeah, go through some kambo and hapé and sananga, and then a macro dose of psilocybin at the end of the retreat with some sound therapy mixed in and massage stuff happening. So it's really the best thing, I think, for a reset, complete, get your life on track, get rid of the noise, shuffle through all the stuff that's been shoved in your face and go, nope, I don't need any of that, and then get rid of it all and get back to crushing life. So, and then we spend the next month, integrating back and, doing phone calls and talking about the other situations. Cause after a retreat, you're on, the top of the world a lot of times. Maybe some people end up with, not all the answers or whatever they wanted to get. But most of the time, has a big benefit. And then, you go through and riding this wave and, how do you implement some of the things that you want to in life afterwards? So they do a really good job with that at the Rising Ridge, and I'm trying to go really each year. But I think this year I'll go out and try and help. They're building more stuff on the property and creating more things. They do like yoga retreats and different great things for the planet and creating this great community and a tribe for good people trying to be better.
And so it sounds like you have a lot of experience with plant medicine. Have you facilitated for others, or is something that you've done just for your own benefits?
Yeah, I haven't done any facilitating yet. I haven't really wanted to go down that road so much, but I do enjoy helping people. So maybe at some point I might go down this road into facilitation of some of these medicines. I was exposed as a young kid to different things, and there was always benefit to these as well. I feel as a recreational usage of some of these medicines. Mushrooms, I think, are probably the most beneficial thing that people can have in the world, psychedelic and probably food wise. I like mushrooms as well, but I think you get a lot of different things from these different types of plant medicine. So I've always kind of been a little bit hippie-ish on the side, and had people in my life that were a little bit hippie-ish as well. So getting out of the military, I waited until I was finished and then did ayahuasca in Brazil with a friend that, invited me, Isaac, with this organization, União Vegetal. It's like the Union of the Plants. And actually, you might get on board with this too, right? Union of the Plants. And, you know, this is a different type of environment. Some people go to these retreats in the middle of Brazil or the jungle, and maybe they're not as formalized. And the Vegetal is kind of a church essentially, and you go sitting with 20 people sitting in front of all these masters of the ceremony, and it's all in Portuguese. And I'm the only gringo there. And it was very, very cool to be invited to this thing. So yeah, I went there and did that, and then a couple of different times at Rising Ridge as well. And big fan on psychedelics and plant medicine, really. And I think there's a lot of benefit to it, and the whole world should be looking at it. And it's good to see that people are actually doing studies and they're getting, maybe government involved isn't so good in some ways, but look, the FDA, like, here's all your food. This is all trying to kill you. You're like, well, wait a second. I don't know if I want them involved in any of this, because people are getting better in one day, whereas they've been on some kind of things that are trying to kill them, and just making a bunch of other people money for life doesn't make sense to me. So government getting involved is probably not that good, but
Yeah,
at least we're getting some studies, and science can back data now.
yeah. Unfortunately, I share your sentiment there, because I probably wouldn't have found these things if the government had been involved in it back in the 90s and early 2000s. And I probably was turned on to it more so because they kind of judged it the way they did, because it was illegal, because there was some stigma around it, made the youth in me, the rebel in me, kind of go venture into that area. And then I found the benefit was far different and far outweighed whatever they were trying to keep people away from it. And then we see what happens when they do meddle or they do have their hands in stuff. So I'm probably sharing that sentiment with you 100%.
Yeah, I think they definitely help getting you on the frequency. And the people that run the world don't want enlightened people. They want you just grinding away, trying to run up the ladder and then fall back on your face and do it again. And then, it's they don't want you to be on the frequency. The world's the secret of the life.
Yeah, connected individuals and societies doesn't really work for control so much.
Yeah, definitely.
So we Defy Foundation, you're an ambassador for. What is it?
So we Defy Foundation, maybe I don't remember what year it was, but I met a guy in Afghanistan many years ago. His name's Brian Marvin. He's got a bunch of Renzo Gracie affiliates down in Houston, Texas
Yeah,
now.
yeah, he's in Austin. That was my professor.
I think Houston.
Brian Marvin's in Houston.
Yeah, I think it's Houston, but you might be right. I haven't seen him in years now, actually. But so he was in Afghanistan with me many years ago, and he was a purple belt at the time. I think it was a blue belt, and he would kick my ass all day. I still got a bunch of great little things that I learned from him. I call one of them the Marvinator, and this is a great choke from like a wizard type position. It's very nice with the gi. But he got out of the military. He was working at like 160th or something at the time, which is like helicopter unit for the military, and he started he was maybe one of the first presidents of the foundation, and some other guys, Alan Shabaro and another guy started the organization. But it was to get, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for combat disabled veterans and give them a tribe and connect them to a community and get them off the couch into, the workforce. And a lot of times, we leave the military and you don't have that structure anymore. You don't have that purpose. You don't have that belonging. You don't have a tribe. And then you go work in some job where no one really understands anything that you've actually been through in life. And they've never actually dealt with suffering at all. And here you are with maybe a lot of that and a different take on life. So it's definitely harder to connect, I think, with some people than others getting out of the military. Doesn't matter what your job was, a supply guy or, a Navy SEAL, it's all getting programmed and getting institutionalized essentially. And so I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of the best things for people. It not only gives you a purpose and a tribe and a connection and a community, but it gives you physical therapy and it gives you athletic things and gives you mobility training and everything that everyone needs. It does it all right there with a bunch of people that want to make you better. And they're there to make you better and you're there to make them better. And it's like this symbiotic relationship and people depending on you to actually, to be there and help support them in whatever that journey is. And life is, everybody's dealing with something, it doesn't matter military or not. I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is probably one of the most beneficial things for all of humanity. It's the only place probably in the world where you could get every religion and, potheads and drug addicts and police and lawyers and doctors and all in one room getting along, trying to strangle each other, but then being so friendly off the mat and smiling and hugging each other and like sharing this energy and this connections. The whole world had jujitsu, we wouldn't have all this other madness going on. People, it's counterintuitive to think about that, but it's like, oh, you're learning how to fight. How does that, make people better? It's different. It's not just about the fighting. It's about this tribe and the connection with the world around you and being a part of this community that you're in, wherever that is. I think Jiu-Jitsu does that. So the We Defy Foundation's been doing that for about 10 years. I was fortunate enough to support them over the whole entire time, really. One of my friends, Travis Larson's now the president. And I do fundraisers and seminars and things for them often. Just went to Renzo Gracie's up in New York City and did a great seminar up there not too long ago. And we raised $80,000 in donations and then another $250,000 in media campaign for We Defy. So it's pretty great to be part of the organization. And their organization, they have one paid position. Everybody else is volunteer 100%. No one's getting any money out of the thing, and most of the money goes to pay for veterans in the program. So they're gathering more data on this now as well. I think for showing the benefit with the people that have been through the program, and then how those people are continuing to serve the community, and then it just continues to grow. And this network gets bigger and bigger, and then people start to listen. And they're like, "Oh, there's something to this," especially with all the science and AI data now, and it's able to work through a lot of these things and give real information to people.
Yeah. Definitely. That's beautiful. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And there's probably not enough outreaches like that for just getting people into jujitsu in general, but especially veterans. I worked with I interviewed another place down here that does biohacking for veterans and kind of has a similar outreach, and they have galas every year and they're raising funds for it. And it's been really successful. But now that you mentioned it, I've got to circle back with them and be like, yo, jujitsu, jujitsu, jujitsu.
Yeah, I think that, I actually did this event last year at MCON. It's this military conference. A bunch of nonprofits kind of get together and talk about what they're doing in the veteran community, and people start, connecting and networking and building things together. And I think there's a lot of great organizations out there that are doing so many good things and implementing different tools that, veterans and can use to, better their mental and physical health. And combining these things together are really a good way to go about it. It can't just be like, oh, we're going to do equestrian therapy or goat yoga or whatever the case, which are all probably great things. And people are out there gardening and they're out there beekeeping and they're out there doing jiu-jitsu. So all these different organizations are doing great things. It allows someone to be following their passion, allows them to give back to something that's greater than themselves. And then you start combining these together and people do retreats. And I think it has a lot of benefit. I go next month. I go out to Arizona and do a veterans breakthrough retreat and teach jiu-jitsu at that as well. And it's another group of veterans that are working through things. So sit around and have a retreat in Flagstaff and teach some jiu-jitsu and hang out and hopefully make an impact on somebody's life.
Absolutely awesome. So, what does staying dangerous after 40 mean to you?
Oh, staying dangerous after 40 is really keeping at the grind. I think, I met Rich Franklin years ago on a plane going to somewhere in Texas, I think, and he was with Mike Dolce at the time. Was a nutritionist, I think, for the UFC for guys doing weight cutting. I think they were doing some seminar there, whatever it was. And Rich was talking about, I was like, oh, you're still pretty old, grinding away or whatever. And he's like, oh, man, I met this guy on a plane that was like 90 years old sitting next to me. I said, oh, where are you heading off to? He was going to work or something. He's like, oh, you're still working at 90? And the old man says something like, oh, when you rest, you rust, right? And I was like, that's it. That's a good way to look about life. And that's how I just grind through life, stay dangerous. And no matter what, unless my limbs are completely broken off, you can pretty much go through anything. I did Aconcagua with knees that I shouldn't have been able to walk on. I'm just hobbling down the mountain. So I think you can push through most things unless it's completely torn apart. You hear guys like David Goggins, stay hard or whatever. And, he not quite that bad. I kind of try to listen to my body and do the things that are important, but being able to, stay healthy and fit and compete at a high level in my peer group and also, you know, against people much younger than me, I still can handle my own. At some point, I'm going to change that, I think. But right now, I like to be competitive, be the best version of me that I can be, and then I can be better for everybody else as well.
Have you heard that voice at all yet?
No, what is that?
That voice saying, oh, maybe I should turn down this role with this younger guy, or maybe I should start turning down more of these roles with the younger guys. I should start thinking about self-preservation a little more. Any of those voices.
Oh, man, yeah, I hear these voices sometimes over there, and I'm like, I'm in charge here. I'm driving this spaceship, so sometimes I hear them and I'm like, no, it's not that time yet. Not quite there. I think in probably another 4 or 5 years, maybe I'll get there. But I think I'm going to get in better shape and I'm going to be better as time goes by. Somehow it's going to work out. I just have this positive mental attitude and it just fires up and maybe I'll get healthier somehow. Magic stem cells at some point. I don't know.
I'm with you. Biology.
Going to manifest this.
Yeah, I'm biology of belief. I manifested as well. I'm with you on that one. So what do you tell other midlife grapplers who are on the mats, probably aren't as experienced as you and kind of want to stay on the mats for the long haul? Obviously, not everybody can approach it the same way. Not everybody can grind through. Not everybody can even talk themselves into the ice bath. You know this. I know this. So those guys out there who are meddling on that border, that what's right, what's wrong, which roles do I take, which roles do I not take? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, I think like we've discussed a couple times already, a little bit of suffering is really good. And some people just never had it. So they're like, oh, I stubbed my toe or, I can't go to training today because my pinky hurts or, whatever the case, small little things that are really not that, oh, my shoulder hurts, like whatever the case is, you know, the deal. If you've never felt a little bit of pain in life and you're like, man, that sucks. It does a little bit, but also it's not, debilitating. It's not going to end your world. And also, you'll probably get better if you do just train through some of these things that prevent you from going to jiu-jitsu. Just show up. You don't have to go through and fight people every day at 100%. You can go and learn. And then you can go and adapt depending on whatever your ailments are that you're dealing with. You just change your jiu-jitsu, which then makes your jiu-jitsu better as well. Showing up is the answer. We've got a guy, 76 years old, that comes to jiu-jitsu every morning. And he shows up every day. And that's like probably his best thing of the day. Bob's amazing. And he's an old judo guy too. So he's been banged up, getting thrown around the mat his whole entire life, still there, showing up. And, you don't have to go 1,000%. Just try to figure out the movement, and that will keep you healthier later in life. And the sooner that you get that fact that you don't have to win everything, the better off you'll be. And it's really, really difficult to get people to understand that. And I've been trying to figure out how to make people get that idea in their head and go, oh, it's like pretend like you're rolling with an 8-year-old kid that's, 70 pounds that can do jiu-jitsu. And then your jiu-jitsu gets so much better. I was able to actually train with this girl, Jessica Khan, back in the day at Gustavo's, and she was the best kid ever. I mean, she won like everything as an adult now, I think probably as well, but she won like every belt every time for everything and went to AOJ. I don't know how she's doing nowadays, but she was so great to roll with. And that's what really made my jiu-jitsu flow so much better. It allowed me to, put these different movements in and not have to worry about like the win, grab everything, tackle everyone and squeeze it to death. So movement. And I like this Budokan mobility. I give a shout out to that Cameron Shane fella, but it's just a bunch of things that are all mixed in with all the other stuff that you should be doing, like wrestling warm-ups and gymnastics and yoga and, a bunch of these things put together in a system that makes sense for jiu-jitsu. Just get on the mat, stay on the mat. Don't worry about those injuries, just don't train and sit and watch. You learn a lot watching, putting puzzle pieces together from a, visualization point of view, I think.
Yeah, there was an old movie. I think it was a football movie, but it's something that stuck with me for a long time. Was, are you hurt or are you injured? Because if you're injured, you can't perform. If you're hurt, you can, and you can find a way to work through it or work around it.
Yeah, I forget what that was.
It was a football,
but I remember that movie as well.
It was a football movie. It was like The Program, I think. The Program.
Yep, that was it.
Impactful. Way back in the day. I knew none of you young bucks are going to know what we're talking about, but
it wasn't that long ago. Come on now.
Yeah, well, for us, no.
Yeah, you're
funny.
Right.
I was in training actually Monday morning, and it was Tuesday night. Wagner referenced a movie that was late 90s or something like that. And I was standing behind him and I whispered the line that he was thinking about, and he turned around and he was like, yeah. And we looked at each other and realized not a single other person in the room knew what we were talking about.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens. That's not long ago, 30 years ago. And you're like, well, that wasn't a long time ago.
It goes fast, brother. It goes fast.
Time flies on.
All right. So I've been doing this lately. I really like it. One word you would like to leave the audience with today, and why?
That's a difficult one.
Yeah. And it only works out if I pop it on you. I can't let you prepare for that one. Keep it organic.
Yeah, I think positivity, this is a good way to live life in this positive mindset. No matter how bad things are, if you can change your mind into whatever that thing is. And positivity, I think, is a lot of the battle in life, try to remain positive.
Do you have any, along that line, do you have any habits and things that you do consistently to keep you positive?
I think all the things that I do mold into that mindset, being able to like, oh, if I didn't get to get outside in the garden, how do I change my mindset and go, oh, it's okay, I can get to that later. What would you call this? Like reframing these things, right? And then I reframe them into this, oh, okay, well, that's not so big of a deal. And a guy told me at one of the retreats a while back, his name's Wiz Buckley. He's an old fighter pilot. So like got a psychedelic fighter pilot page or something. And I was talking about something and he says, oh, it is what it is. And I was like, that's just all of life. And then I just changed that idea right then. And now it's, oh, it is what it is. And it's really not that bad, whatever the things are. And it's just like, and as you get into that mindset, the whole world just unfolds and all the things come to you like you need. It's crazy.
You were saying
it is what it is.
You were saying something about it earlier, a manifestation, and it rings true. I think the guys that spend a little bit of time with their feet on the ground and outdoors and paying attention to things that aren't let's say Instagram scroll related or worldwide news related, they get it a little bit.
Yeah, I try to stay not too long on the Instagram and watching the world news other than economic impact of things and how I can somehow benefit from that.
Yeah. And it is good that we have resources like what you do all the time online for free. So anytime that we are feeling a little bit of angst and it's raining outside or there's something else going on, we're waiting at a dentist office or whatever it is, pop on BJJ Fanatics and watch, somebody who actually knows what they're doing, knows what works over the long haul, and try and implement new stuff all the time. I think that's one of the best benefits of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I love it. It's this crazy puzzle that you're never going to get all the pieces to, but then sometimes you get new pieces and you're like, oh, look, I got another part done. But there's more out there somewhere, and I'm looking for them. I just got 100 rounds almost last week with 100 different people in Estonia, and man, I got more pieces to the puzzle. I'm pretty excited to add some new stuff, and it's feeling like I'm in the Matrix, like Neo right now, flowing through these places. It's the best. This new arm thing from the bottom, and like, yeah, life is good with my
Yeah,
development of the jiu-jitsu.
there's no way to actually share that with people that haven't trained before and haven't gone through the first few stages of jujitsu and then started to have things click for them. But it's problem solving under pressure, and every time you get a new thing to throw into the equation, it's really exciting. It's something that's fun, it's entertaining, and yeah, you just can't explain it to people. It's weird.
Yeah, I wonder, what do you think is, doing all these different interviews, what do you think is the thing that keeps people on the mat the most?
Honestly, I started this angle on the podcast because I saw the number one most consistent problem with jujitsu is guys like our age dropping out. And it was the guys that started a little bit late that got really excited and into it, and they bought the Flow Grappling subscription, and they watched a bunch of stuff, and they tried to come put YouTube techniques together on the mats, and then just one by one they all disappear. And I didn't understand, like, I didn't think I was fortunate or lucky to have some of the things in my life that, definitely have facilitated me staying on the mats. But I knew there was some underlying problems that, like, we needed to address in the community. Because I mean, yeah, that there's guys who show up with ego and then they run themselves off the mat. But there's also a lot of good, really solid dudes who should be on the mats right now and aren't for one reason or another, whether it be an injury or whether it be other life issues. And I think that's the where my focus has been, is keeping guys on the mat more than what are the commonalities that you know have kept us on the mat. Like, if we can collect all that information together and put it out there as a resource, maybe we'll just collect more people and start to figure out what the real determining factors are. And what do you think?
Well, I think, you know, as people get involved in it, I think some gyms, depends on what gyms you go to and the vibe in the gym. Say an MMA gym versus a like sport jiu-jitsu gym, or hobbyist type gym. You have a different vibe in these places, right? But I think that once you get, doesn't matter what type of gym it is, it more like aggressive type folks. These are good, but you got to throttle that with the older folks like that don't want to train like that. Being able to balance that is very difficult in some gyms that are trying to do multiple different things, right? So I think that creating a community in that gym is likely what kind of keeps people coming back, even when they're getting beat up and injured and all these other things. And some people don't feel like they have that connection to that community at gyms. They just, it's a membership, they pay, they go there. They don't have like external like activities that they do with the gym, or they don't have, go for coffee in the mornings or whatever the case is. This is like the community that you build in your gym, the culture that you create is, I think, what really keeps people there. And I think the schools that are losing the people maybe don't have that proper culture of the gym. And that's what makes people really not go back or not feel driven to really continue that thing, because they maybe haven't had the right place. So I think creating that environment is very, very important.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny. I had a couple different gym experiences when I first started, and they changed radically because of COVID. So it was a weird time. Like, COVID shut down the gyms, and then one gym just went out of business, and then I went to another one. But they were small gyms, and they all had good people in them. They all had good, solid communities, but it wasn't really a high competitive environment. Then I went and found the competitive environments and like the all out wars at a couple different gyms. And it facilitated something that I really needed and wanted as well. So I've seen both sides of it. And I know that there's people out there who get positive benefits and really kind of get hungrier because of it. But I also see how that could definitely shut down people if they're in the wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. I'd like to recommend anybody that comes into a gym where I'm training and teaching. I'd recommend that they check out different gyms in the area and see where the vibe fits and what kind of people they like and how far it is from the gym and like uh, people that are teaching. And do some research and feel the place that feels right. I think it's important to listen to your intuition a lot of times, and you find the right place for you. And maybe it's at a MMA type gym, or maybe it's a older, sport kind of jiu-jitsu gym, whatever the case. But definitely, there's one gym in your area somewhere, wherever people are in the world, that's going to be right for you. And you just have to go out and find it, which is very difficult to get through the door, And how do we get people through the door into jiu-jitsu? Because it's hard to walk in and go, yeah, I'm going to try this thing out where people are going to just beat me up all day. That's difficult to do. I think Budokan kind of does that a little bit. It gives them in the gym, moving a little bit on the mats. They see the environment, they see the people. They realize that this is kind of nice, and then they don't have a large, hairy, sweaty man on top of them trying to murder them. Initially, and then as they kind of get through the door, they're like, okay, maybe I'll try this jiu-jitsu thing out because the movement looks very similar to what I'm doing on this mat with the Budokan mobility stuff. So I think that, that guy Cameron Shane's onto something there.
Yeah.
It could bring a lot more jiu-jitsu to the world for sure.
Yeah, I think that would facilitate dual revenue stream for a gym if you really think about it that way. And then the carryover and the crossover is a no-brainer. So,
Yeah, definitely.
all right, brother. I know you got lots of stuff coming up this year, but what are we looking forward to next? Where is your next seminar? Where can we find you online? And yeah.
Yeah, I've got a handful of things coming up. Next seminars, I think I'm going to Arizona Veterans Breakthrough, doing a retreat out there for the veterans. And then I'll be doing BJJ Globetrotters in Maine for a week. So I'll be up there for a few days, maybe looking at doing a seminar prior to the weekend in first week of June or something. And then I'll be going to Peru for 3 weeks and doing some, sightseeing and visiting down there. And then I come back to Miami for a day, fly to Europe for a month. So I'll be in Europe for pretty much the whole month of July. I'll be in Czech Republic for a little bit. And then in between there, I'm looking at maybe doing Finland, I don't know, maybe UK somewhere, Ireland, Scotland, doing some seminars if I can get some things going on. Maybe Sweden as well. I like Sweden a lot, or Denmark. We'll see where I can get some folks. And then Frankfurt, Germany, beginning of August. And then I'll probably come back to the States for a bit. And I've got Desert Duels coming up probably in October, which is that military event. And people can find me on the Instagram, William Dorman BJJ, on BJJ Globetrotters YouTube channel. A bunch of cool videos out there. And I got a new instructional on BJJ Fanatics. So pretty excited about that.
What's that new instructional called?
It's pressure, passing, control, and submissions. It's a great series of things that I've been kind of developing over the years to really put that pressure tested ideas to work, and really evolved it through the Globetrotters camps over the last few years. It goes into the whole dog bar and dog house and passing and a bunch of cool submissions and control. And as an opponent does one thing, I do another. I pretty much funnel them down to 3 options. You can go this way or that way or that way, and that's it. And I know the answer to all 3 of those, and then I just move through a cycle, and it just repeats. It's really, really effective situations. And at some point, I'll do some more stuff from the bottom. I think all roads lead to the doghouse is another option that I'm looking at, because every takedown, every sweep, every pass, everything goes right into that over-under doghouse situation. So I've been getting this cool little toe hold. It's anti-leg locking. Leg locking is coming up. Who knows? I got so many ideas in my jiu-jitsu, and it's been great. But there's a bunch of videos out there. Kind of highlights a bunch of the things, and hopefully people check them out and get something out of it, and keep training.
I will, and I'm sure they will, no doubt. We were actually having a conversation about this yesterday in the gym, and we were comparing your over-under pass to cyborgs, and I'm sure Abreu. Are you going to train in Miami when you drop in that day?
Actually, I just saw him at a tournament not too long ago, Cyborg. I competed against one of his pretty tough guys. I can't remember his name offhand, but it was
Danino?
Tampa. I don't know. He looks like he's really mean and angry, but he's actually a really nice guy.
That's Danino.
Yeah. Super nice guy. Had a good match. I think I probably won the match, but, being a white guy and a wrestler, it doesn't work out so well in Brazilian world sometimes. But it was a good match anyway. I got a nice takedown on him. Got some good things working. And Cyborg's like, "Oh man, great takedown after the match." So I was pretty stoked on that. You know, he's a savage. I've been watching him compete, but now he must remember me because he sees me at these tournaments. He's like, "Oh, hey, my friend, how are you?" I'm like, "Oh, cool, man." Cyborg kind of knows me now. That's great. But yeah, he's a big monster, and connection is a lot of that connection that I talk about, that over under passing situation, shoulder to the hip, head to the hip on the other side, like squeezing everything, trying to twist things off their body. All these small things make it very, very successful. And if you don't have all the little pieces together, it makes it more difficult to get into all these positions because people scramble out of them and then you lose all the space. So controlling that space is very important, and he does a really good job with that. And same, Bernardo Faria used to do really well, but I've added some other tricks from Gordo throughout the years, and then some other tricks into some weird footlock stuff, and it's been fun.
Well, if you do find yourself wanting to train when you're in South Florida, come up to Wagner's in Hollywood.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to stop down and train. I'll be there for maybe a day, I think. So maybe I will swing by coming up pretty soon. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Well, we'll lead everybody your way in the show notes, and I'm looking forward to your episode coming out. This was a great conversation. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I really appreciate it. Been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.
Thanks for watching today's episode, and as always, go to Lineage Provisions for 15% off of the best protein from regenerative agriculture, and my personal favorite, Lineage Provisions. 15% off, code Josh Button. You guys enjoy. Have a great day.